The next skill we're going to look at is called thirds. So what thirds are is they're a partial chord. A typical chord has 3 notes to it, and we're just going to look at 2 of those. So we're looking at the roots along with the third note of each chord. And there's a couple things you have to know before. I want to show you the theory of how thirds work before I show you on the fretboard what they look like. So there's basically 2 types of thirds. There's only 2 types of thirds. 2 types. There's what's called a major third. Major third. Or there is a minor third. And these major and minor thirds consist all throughout chords, and they're basically the building blocks of how chords are formed. And if you get into like real deep music theory, even the most complex chords are built from combining major thirds and minor thirds. We're not going to go that deep into it for this lesson, but all you need to know is there are 2 types, major third and minor third. And the differences between these 2 are a major third is basically you take any note, let's say here, well, let me write this out first. Major third is, let me see, 4 half steps higher than the root. Okay, 4 half steps higher than the root. I'll show you what this means in a second. A minor third is only 3 half steps higher than the root. So if I were to go to this note here, this is a G or number 1. So if I were to build a major third from this root note, that's 4 half steps higher. So what I would do is from here I would count 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be a major third away. Okay? And a minor third would be 3 half steps. So basically from here it's 1, 2, 3. So the difference between a minor third and major third is right here. Now, the goal in these thirds is to play them together along with the root. And so obviously if you're playing it on the same string, you can't do that. So what I would have to do is move these thirds from this E string to the A string. So what happens is if I were to play this major third right here up on this string, the pattern would look like this. These 2. Now let me erase this because we don't need that anymore. So this relationship, here's the root and here's the third. This relationship, 1 fret apart, is a major third. Okay, so if that's that, then, whoops, a minor third would be 1 less step. So here's a major third. Minor third is this relationship. On the next string, but 2 frets lower. Okay? So once again, here's a major third. Here's a minor third. That's all you need to memorize. Major third and minor third. Now, a little more of the theory. You have to understand this part. So in a chord progression, there's 7 chords, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, within those 7 chords, there is 3 types of chords. And if you want a little more in-depth review of this, you can go look at the chord progression theory using the number system video that I have. But I'm going to break it down so it's pretty simple for us here. So chords number 1, chords number 4, chords number 5 are major chords. Major chords. Chords number 2, number 3, chords number 6 are minor chords. Okay, that's according to music or chord progression theory. And chord number 7, which is the only one that's missing, by default, it's called a diminished chord. Diminished chord. Now for this lesson, all you need to know is this. These major chords, 1, 4, and 5, use major thirds. Major thirds. The minor chords, chords 2, 3, and 6, use minor thirds. And this diminished, for this skill, it will use minor thirds because a diminished chord is actually built off the minor third interval. All right? So what that looks like is this. I'm going to go one at a time, and this should make sense. Here's the 1 root, right? This is the 1. So if I'm going to play thirds off of this 1 root, I would look here. Oh, that's a major chord. So the major third pattern looks like this. That would be how you would play thirds on the number 1 chord. Now, if you were playing or you were building chords on the number 2, the root number 2 note is here. Number 2 is a minor chord, so you would use the minor third pattern. Remember, 2 frets apart. So that would be a 2 chord playing these thirds. All right. 3. If you run into a 3 chord, here's the 3 note. 3 is a minor chord. So you would use this minor pattern on this 3 chord. 4 is right here. That's a 4 root. 4 is what type of chord? Major. So since it's a major, you're going to use this major pattern of thirds. 5 is a major chord. Once again, so you use the major pattern. 6, what type of chord is it? It's a minor, so you go and use the minor pattern. And then 7, which you'll rarely run into a true 7 chord in, especially the modern type of music. But just in case you were to, well, that's a diminished chord. This is a 7 note root. 7 is a diminished chord, and you remember, diminish uses a minor third. And so what you would do is rather than playing the major, this would be the major, you would have to play this open string here. This relationship is a minor third interval. So that is how you play thirds on the guitar. Now this will come in handy later, so it might seem a little complicated right now, but you definitely want to go and memorize this. Remember, there's only 2 patterns to memorize, and then right away go and start playing a progression. Once again, you can go play chord progression 1, 5, 6, 4. And apply these thirds to that. Just real quickly, I'll show you what this would look like. On the 1 chord, it would be that. On the 5 chord, it would be this. On the 6 chord, it would be this. And then on the 4 chord, you would play that. That's how you play thirds.